Hello everyone and welcome to this OCS Preseen video for November 25 and February 26 exam. I'll walk you through what to expect, and I'll also share a selection clips from our tutors that will help you get started with this Preseen. Here's what this video will cover. First, we'll begin with a short refresher on OCS exam itself, your role as a finance officer, and what the examiners are looking for. Then, we'll move into the company overview of SumTrix. Rather than the full lecture, I've included some carefully selected samples from FinTutor's details video. And FinTutor is our provider for this session. So you will get a good sense of the company background and context. After that, I'll share another set of samples from the industry analysis video, giving you some insight into the wider ski sector that SumTrix operates in. And finally, we'll look into some topic-based analysis from our tutors. From P1, we'll be covering budgeting. From F1, we'll be covering inventories and ethics. And from E1, we'll be covering CSR, centralization versus decentralization, and outsourcing. Again, these are short extracts from the longer videos in our course to give you a flavor of the type of the analysis we'll go deeper into later. Now, as you'll see, SumTrix is a ski manufacturer, a company and an industry that some of you may be familiar with. Well, especially me, since I live in Switzerland. That's what makes this Preseen unique and interesting, and why these selected clips will be so useful and build your first impressions. So, make sure you have your Preseen document handy, follow along, and take notes as you go.
In this video, we're going to have a look at the CIMA case study exams, exactly what they are and what's expected of you in these exams. Case study exams are very different from the OT exams that you sit at each level. CIMA conducted some research before they last revised their syllabus, and it came through very strongly from employers that what they wanted from their accountants were two things. They wanted them to be technically strong, and that is what the OT exams are designed to test, but they also wanted accountants to be able to function well in the workplace, which is more than just being technically strong. It's their ability to communicate, to recognise and appreciate issues and come up with practical, work-based, commercially astute advice. And this is what the case study is trying to replicate. It's a work-based simulation. So it is not in any way trying to retest the OT exams that you've passed already. It's about putting you in context and seeing if you can function at an appropriate level in the organisation. So you're working at an entry level here. The role simulated is that of a finance officer, is what CIMA call it, working within a collaborative team in the finance department that's responsible for planning and coordinating business operations through the preparation of budgets and other reports. The role at this level focuses on the short term, assisting with the preparation of useful and relevant financial reports, drawing upon data collected by the company's information system. Information systems and the use of data underpins every case study at every level, and in fact is a major part of every single paper now in the CIMA syllabus. The finance officer may be asked to evaluate short-term opportunities and threats, for example, selecting between alternative courses of action, and they may also provide information to support decisions on working capital, cash and short-term finance. So the emphasis here is short-term decision-making. This finance officer, i.e. you, also offers insights that influences the decisions taken by colleagues and superiors. You must act in a professional manner, ensuring that reports are sufficiently complete and accurate to facilitate decisions. So your professionalism is being tested here. The finance officer makes full use of the technologies available for the collection, cleansing and analysis of data. The preparation of reports also relies heavily on understanding of how that business is structured. The finance officer is required to interact with colleagues from finance and all other functional areas of the business. So it could well be that you're asked to communicate with non-finance professionals in your operational case, which means you need to think carefully about your tone and the way in which you try and communicate ideas. You've got to be particularly careful with the use of jargon and make sure that you don't confuse people if they aren't from a finance background. The finance officer also assists in the preparation of financial reports to enable external stakeholders to understand how the business is performing. That requires an understanding of the regulations relating to financial reporting and business tax. So that's your F1, for example, your financial reporting type studies there. The fact that the finance officer's work affects the behaviour of internal and external stakeholders can raise ethical implications, and ethics are often brought up as an issue in the case study, whether a compromising situation or maybe a business is thinking of doing something that might considered to be unethical, and it's about how you deal with that situation commercially. The finance officer must be aware also of their personal responsibilities, so the personal, professional ethical framework that you subscribe to as a CIMA member. Now, at the operational level, there are 6 core activities that are being assessed. So first of all, your ability to prepare costing information for different purposes to meet the needs of management. Budget information as well, and assess its use for planning and control, so that brings in things like variances. Analyse performance using both financial, so traditional, and non-financial information, and increasingly the use of non-financial information to drive decision making is a theme in this case study. Apply relevant financial reporting standards and knowledge of your corporate governance, ethical and tax principles. Prepare information to support short-term, as we said earlier, it's short-term decision making typically here, and including the management of working capital. Now, when you pass the operational level, you are awarded the diploma in management accounting. So you're having a qualification already by passing the operational case. Okay, the format of the operational case. There is some pre-seen information that's released a few weeks before the real exam, and that's there to give you background on a particular industry. It's normally perhaps 20 to 30 pages long. It will include a whole collection of articles and exhibits, extracts from financial statements, reports, and so on. And it's there to enable you to prepare for the exam day. What people often do is obsess excessively about reading around that pre-scene and delving deeply into the industry that that pre-scene is set within. You have to remember the purpose of the pre-scene is to give you the information you need to set the scene. It's to try and give everyone the same starting point when it comes to going into the exam room. So although it's important to get to know the pre-scene and to think about what the pre-scene can be leaning towards in terms of issues and areas to focus on, you have to remember that actually the main focus of the actual questions given to you on the day stems from some new information that's given to you on that day. The pre-scene is just there as background. Now, the exam itself has got 4 45-minute sections within it, and it's equally weighted for each section. Each section has got several subtasks within it. So you'll be given some new information on the day for that section, and then within that new information there'll be several subtasks for you to do. You'll notice they're called tasks, not questions. The idea being it's trying to be that work-based simulation. Any one subtask doesn't have to be limited to just one part of the operational syllabus. It can be from several syllabus areas potentially. Now this next one is an important point to note. You can think of this exam as being 4 mini exams, because if you finish one of those 45-minute sections early, You can move on to the next 45-minute section, but importantly, you cannot bank time. So if you finish a section 5 minutes early, you'll be finishing the whole exam 5 minutes early. You are wasting that time. So if you do happen to finish a section a few minutes early, don't move on. Use that time to polish up what's on the screen in front of you and keep polishing until the time runs out. In keeping with this being a work-based type scenario, you will be asked to reply in a variety of formats. It could be email, memo, report, briefing note. So you need to be aware of, first of all, the layout for those kinds of things, but importantly, the tone of them as well and how formal. And for example, if you're doing a report, you'll need an introduction, you'll need a conclusion and sign off. And you'll need to structure it carefully so that it flows nicely as a report. A memo is probably a bit less formal than a report and is for internal consumption only. So you need to be mindful of that, as well as mindful of who you're writing to. You are provided with a word processor in the test software, and that test software is available for you to practice on the CIMA website. And I would recommend that when you're practicing questions in preparation for this exam, you use the real software as much as possible. It takes some getting used to, that software, so what you don't want to be doing is working out how to use it, particularly on the day. Now, in the case study, you will be given some numbers in the pre-seen and quite often in the new information, the unseen as it's called, given to you on the day. But you won't be expected to perform lots of detailed calculations. The calculations side of thing has already been tested in the OT papers. It's all about interpretation. So what's more likely is that you are given some numbers that you need to talk about, or talk about the consequences of what those numbers are telling you and so on. So I'm not saying don't go in without a calculator. It never hurts to have a calculator close by, but don't expect to be doing lots and lots of numbers. There are some tables provided for you to use, present value, cumulative present value tables and the normal distribution, but they are rarely needed, to be honest, following on from the previous point that there aren't much detailed calculations to worry about.
So now you'll wonder, what is finance officer? It's a very vague term. So to further pinpoint, the finance officer's role is quite broad. It involves short-term decision-making help, costing analysis, variance analysis, working capital analysis, budgeting, analysis. If you think of all of these topics that I spoke, they are going to be a direct relation to your E1, P1 and F1 syllabus. Which means if I want to be a good finance officer, I will naturally have to have good E1, P1 and F1 knowledge. The operational case study exam places a whole lot of attention on how well you can replicate technical knowledge. For a very simple example, let's say a scenario-based question comes up and it's around variance analysis, specifically direct material price variance. If you don't know what the direct material price variance is, not its calculations, but if you don't know what the direct material price variance is, how are you even going to start to write the answer? So the first place we recommend for everybody is revision, and anybody on our course will have started through revision using our material, which pinpoints exactly the knowledge you are supposed to have. So again, coming back, all of these roles of a finance officer are varying and they bring your knowledge from E1, P1 and F1. So to be a good finance officer, E1, P1, F1 knowledge will be key. It's the starting point. You are principally involved in the preparation of management accounting information and providing information to managers. As we very well know, P1 is going to be the foundational pillar of this exam. P1 is going to be your majorly tested area in this exam. So P1 revision again becomes key, because if you don't know the concepts, how will you help them in management accounting? How will you help them make decisions? So importance of revision coming up. At times, you are also expected to assist with the preparation of the financial statements and answer queries regarding financial reporting. So, in the paragraph above, they told you about P1. In this paragraph, they're telling you about F1. This duty links mainly to F1 if you do not have your IAS knowledge, taxation knowledge. How are you going to answer questions? So these become key revision areas, and F1 is also important. If I were to rate it in terms of importance, I would say first P1 revision, then F1 revision, and then E1 revision. Remember, overall, key aspects of E1, P1 and F1 are to be known. What are these key aspects? The topics which I list through this Preseen analysis are your key aspects which we have to be clear about. And they're coming up one by one. So this was your role. Next, we are coming to introduction. So SumTrix is a company that manufactures and sells freestyle and touring skis, which are a specific type of ski. So we sell two types of skis. Actually, manufacture and sell two types of skis, freestyle and touring. We also sell ski accessories. So very clearly, what do I analyze from this? This is a vertically integrated organization where we first design, then we manufacture, and then we sell it. So now when you're doing your E1, P1 and F1 revision, you got to keep in mind that, okay, I am working for SumTrix, which is a company that designs, manufactures and sells. So you need to keep in mind the manufacturing related concepts, topics while you are doing your revision, because you are working for a company that is a manufacturer. So from E1, I'm now thinking of, because we manufacture and sell, finance function, the role of the finance function becomes very important. This is in your E1 syllabus, so you should be writing down 1. Role of finance function. 2. The ski accessories must also be marketed and positioned correctly. So your marketing concepts come into the picture. Because you are designing, you are manufacturing, and then you are selling, lot of stakeholders are involved. Customers, suppliers, employees, all of these are going to be involved. So stakeholder management from E1 becomes important. Because you are manufacturing, obviously your costing, because you want to control your costs. So different costing techniques. Deeper into the Preseen, we will be discussing exactly what costing techniques SumTrix has. What are the benefits of that technique? What are the benefits of moving to new techniques? But over here, because I am finding it relevant, I am just listing it out for you. So again, because we are manufacturing, your variance analysis comes into the picture. A very important theme is going to be seasonality and seasonal demand, which is part of your time series analysis in P1. This is going to be a key topic because of the nature of the business. You are a company which sells skis. Skis are only used in the winter season when there is snow. So obviously there is going to be seasonal demand, and the seasonal factor needs to be considered. So this was my analysis from only these 2 lines. This way we will be detailing everything for you one by one. Now SumTrix is based in Reeland, a country in Northern Europe. With the R dollar as its currency, Reeland has a strong ski culture. So they're telling you that we are in a fictional country called Reeland. It's in Northern Europe and it has a strong ski culture. Now this very clearly tells me that I am in a good place, because if I consider my PESTEL analysis, external market analysis, it's very clear that the economic environment, the social environment are supportive, because Northern Europe technically is a developed country, developed section. So people will have the money, the interest, the power to spend on sports like ski. Secondly, socially, it's supported because it already has a strong ski culture. So SumTrix is in a good place and it's supported by good economic, good social factors already. This is your pastel from E1. Now, because Reland has its own currency, SumTrix may face foreign exchange issues if we import materials. If you buy from another country, sell in another country, or if you buy from another country, sell in Reland itself, this brings out risk. Again, ski culture also means demand is seasonal. So your seasonality, forecasting, budgeting becomes important from P1. Moving on, history of the company. SumTrix was founded 10 years ago by 3 friends, Elena, Felix and Julian. So 3 friends came together and found this company. It's been in the market for 10 years. They met through their love for freestyle skiing or freestyle riding as it's known in the sport, a ski discipline that incorporates acrobatics. So freestyle skiing is a type of skiing which incorporates acrobatics. So like jumps, stuff like that. So 3 friends came together 10 years ago, found a company because of their love for freestyle skiing. Very clearly, this highlights entrepreneurship at the beginning because it's passion that brought these 3 together and they started this business. So this ties into your E1 concept of organizational purpose, culture of the organization. Their focus on freestyle skiing also links to market positioning. Because of their background in freestyle skiing, we are only selling freestyle skis and touring skis. So this is a very niche area and a niche sport which we are targeting. So overall, we know that a business can only survive for 10 years. 10 years is still a decade. Because it has garnered a set of loyal customers, people are liking their products, people are liking their brand, and this is all relating to goodwill. So you already have goodwill of 10 years with you because you have been in the market for this period, and this enables you to, let's say, launch new skis and people will still be interested because for 10 years you have been strong in this market. Felix and Julian initially met at university 16 years ago where they studied engineering. So Felix and Julian have an engineering background. At this time, they both competed in freestyle skiing competitions at the amateur level. It was one of these competitions where Felix and Julian met Elena, a professional freestyle rider. So Felix and Julian have engineering background. They met Elena, who is a professional freestyle rider. So all of them have freestyle skiing experience, plus Felix and Julian are also engineers. This is important to know because these are the people who started the business, so their background becomes a very important consideration. In 2015, having remained good friends, Felix, Julian and Elena decided to combine their engineering expertise with their love of freestyle skiing to create their own freestyle ski brand that put rider experience first. Please remember, this is one of the core values of your business, rider experience first. You need to always keep this in your mind to make sure whenever you launch something, whenever you speak about your business, your product, you keep in mind that, okay, I have to prioritize rider experience. See, remember, this detailed pre-scene analysis is helping you understand the company, is helping you identify E1, P1, F1 topics, but it's also giving you key ideas which you can carry with you and then replicate in the model, in the mock questions that you practice with me, so that you have a habit of incorporating this pre-seen information within your answers in the final exam as well. See, the mock questions that we do, why do we do them? Because obviously you can get to understand the exam pattern, style in a timed environment, get marks, learn, but also because you can try and test ideas from the pre-seen within your answers, and that adds value. Because remember, you are a finance officer at SumTrix, so the more information of SumTrix that you incorporate within your answers, the more marks you get, because you are working at this company. So it should feel like you are working at this company in your answers, and that is why writing is very important. That is why this pre-seen analysis is very important. That is why all three pillars are important. Just pre-seen will not help. So we are a company that puts rider experience first. Their goal was simple yet ambitious: to create high quality skis that would elevate performance and improve experience of freestyle enthusiasts. Again, these are our goals: high quality, elevate performance, rider experience. This is all key. So the fact that founders met at university means that these are entrepreneurs who are willing to do something, change something. So this is guiding the organizational's purpose and culture, which is shaped by founders' value. This is from your E1. The organizational purpose and culture is going to be shaped by founders' values. Next, relevant costing and decision models are to be discussed here when deciding to launch a new brand. Obviously, when you're deciding something to launch anything new, even in the future, you want to have a comparison of what if you make in-house, or what if you buy it from outside and rebrand it and sell it. So your opportunity cost, make or buy decisions under the relevant costing concept become important for this kind of business, because it's a new business which is starting, and often companies make this distinction, let's put it that way. And even further, if you launch a new product, a new section, this is of consideration. Now, in the early years of the company, it will be very important for the company to raise finance. So sources of short-term capital, long-term capital, short-term debt, long-term debt become important, which is from your F1 syllabus, because the business is only 10 years old. It's going to need money for continued operations. They named the company SumTrix, combining summit and tricks, because freestyle skiing involves tricks, evoking a sense of adventure and playfulness. Operating out of a small workshop in the mountain town of Gornergrattan, the friends handmade their first prototypes, like any startup business does. Their priority was to craft skis with flexibility and durability that could cater to the demands of freestyle skiing, offering excellent control and smooth landings on jumps, rails, and other terrain park features. So again, rider experience was key. Julian was also a keen artist and was responsible for the ski's unique look and colorful designs. So Julian was responsible for the look. With a focus on craftsmanship and design, the company quickly gained a loyal following among local freestyle riders who loved the ski's performance and the trendy designs. So the name SumTrix shows deliberate brand positioning. You position your brand so that it combines summit and tricks. So this relates to your marketing mix, the 4 P's of the marketing mix. Over here we are speaking about product positioning. And also we wanted it to be different, so this is the differentiation strategy. Because the first products were handmade, this highlights the importance of cost classification. Designing skis with specific performance features ties into standard costing and variance analysis. For any new business, standard costing is the best, easiest way to go. Deeper in the Preseen, we'll discuss which costing system does SumTrix really operate on. Now, early product development also reflects your life cycle costing, where there will be high development costs at the beginning. For F1, we are looking at small workshop, means initially invested in small property, plant or equipment, whatever. So your IS 16 comes into the picture. I'm also thinking of IS 2 becomes relevant because handmade skis involve raw material, labor, overall costs, which must be accounted for carefully. So this is a very initial mention of IS 16 and IS 2. I'll give you details later on as well. But just showing you how different topics and thought processes are being brought to you. We'll continue to do this, but being aware that, okay, if you're doing this by yourself, naturally these topics are not going to come to you. We are registered tuition providers, hold the Global Pass Rate Excellence Award for 3 years in a row, been tutoring for years now, thousands of students, so we know what needs to be focused on. So now your job becomes simple to list down the topics we are speaking of and making sure that those topics you are aware of. Second, understanding the company with me. And third, most important, taking these ideas and making sure you replicate it when the time comes, when we write mocks. Because if you're not using any of these knowledge, then entire analysis we are doing over here is gone to waste. So make sure you take these ideas and use it in mock questions, and I will give you ample practice in mock question writing when we get there. So over the next few years, SumTrix grew its customer base substantially, capitalizing on its growing reputation as a high quality freestyle ski manufacturer. The original artwork was extremely popular and quickly became a unique selling point of the ski range. SumTrix began to sell skis more widely throughout Europe. So your foreign exchange situation comes into the picture over here, which I've already spoken about above. Because you are selling throughout Europe now, not only in Reland. Your reputation is good, you became popular, your unique selling point is your artwork or the design of your skis. Remember this. And you sell widely throughout Europe. 2 years ago, the founders decided to capitalize on this growth and expand into the touring ski market. First, we only used to sell one type of ski, freestyle. Now, for 8 years, we sold only freestyle. For the last 2 years, we are selling touring skis also. New product. So touring skis are used by skiers who want to explore remote mountain areas away from the groomed pistes, which means they are away from the original skiing slopes. They are remote. SumTrix range of touring skis was a product of much research and development. The engineering backgrounds of Julian and Felix were invaluable in creating a range of touring skis that were lightweight but strong and reliable in tough conditions. So again, my core values remain the same. Rider experience, high quality, delivering to what the customer actually wants. Building on a strong brand. 8 years my brand had already been built. Owning largely to its unique designs and excellent craftsmanship, SumTrix touring ski range quickly gained traction in the market. So firstly, growth across Europe. This showcases your globalization, international expansion. Again, pastel analysis coming to the picture. We developed a new product as well over here, because first only freestyle, now touring skis as well. So product development is something that the business is doing. So moving into the future, maybe in 1 year's time or maybe in this year itself, because already we have a good goodwill, good fan base, we might consider launching a new product. And this is very much with the link in the business, because the business has been launching products in the past. P1, entering the touring ski market required investment appraisal and decision making. Obviously, you would have done forecasting, budgeting, using, let's say, sensitivity analysis, decision trees from your P1 syllabus before you made this decision of entering into a new product? This can be suggested. Let's say we are launching a new type of product in this year. They'll ask you to evaluate a decision tree. You don't have to draw it, but you have to evaluate it. So if you don't have that P1 knowledge, how are you going to do that? So you should be writing down decision tree, sensitivity analysis in your topic list. Now again, this was an introduction of a new product. So your sales mix variance comes into the picture. Up until now you were only selling one product. Now you're selling two products with different ranges. So naturally your sales mix variance comes into the picture. Which product you are selling more, which product you are selling less, why. All of this analysis now begins. Variance analysis. So again, for F1 we are mainly looking at entire Europe. So foreign currency risk coming into the picture. Because you are selling in different parts of Europe now, managing your receivables, managing your payables become very important, because this becomes difficult if you have international customers, international suppliers now. So your working capital cycle also comes into the picture because of the nature of this business.
Where we are speaking about the market overview of the winter sports equipment industry. See, think of it as a big umbrella. The bigger umbrella is the winter sports equipment industry. One part of winter sports is your ski manufacturing. But first, let's look at the bigger, larger market. The winter sports equipment, just let me increase the size a little bit and resize my page so that, we can read everything. Yes, okay. So the winter sports equipment industry covers gear used for skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, ice hockey. Like I said, one part of this market is ski manufacturing. It serves for recreational purposes, professionals. The global winter sports equipment market size is $17.76 billion. Very clearly, this is a very large market. This is a very huge market. It will have lots of opportunities, and it is growing at a growth rate of 6.81%. So from the onset, I know that, okay, SumTrix is part of a larger market which has lots of winter sports equipment, and it is growing. It is a large market, so there are going to be opportunities. It is growing, so again, there are going to be opportunities. The demand trends are demographic shifts. Why? Because younger people are now getting into winter sports. Also, any kind of sports helps with health and lifestyle. Sustainability is a demand trend. People want more and more sustainable products. So all of these demand trends are ones which are pushing this industry forward and creating a 6-7% growth rate. The challenges for the overall market are climate change. Snow is becoming less and less. High costs. Any winter sport equipment is very expensive, and the seasonal nature. It's winter sport. It's only used in winters. Overall, from this one page, what I have learned is, okay, winter sports have a lot of sport categories. Skis is one of this. Overall, the market is very large, 17 billion. Growth rate is good, 7%. The demand trends are pushing the market forward, and there are some challenges for this market. So the overall umbrella, winter sports equipment, is first what we went through. Now we'll go through ski manufacturing, specifically narrowing on the ski manufacturing market. See, first we learned about the whole umbrella. Now to ski, which is my market specifically. So the ski manufacturing industry focuses on obviously the design, production, and distribution of skis. The key components of the value chain include, in any ski manufacturing business, it's going to be getting your raw materials, then manufacturing it, and then selling it. The industry primarily serves recreational skiers, professional athletes, ski schools, resort operators, with demand closely tied to tourism and snow conditions. We already know that the overall market itself is affected by seasonality, climate change. So ski manufacturing will also be affected by the same. Now the overall market was 17 billion. The ski manufacturing market was 1.5 billion. So it's a very small percentage of the entire winter sports equipment manufacturing market, but it's still significant, 1.5 billion. The market is projected to grow to 2.1 billion with a growth rate of close to 4%. Okay, the market is still large. The market is still growing. So specifically for SumTrix to be in the ski manufacturing industry, we'll have to be very aware. And okay, it's a large market, but it's a very small chunk of the entire winter sports market. It's still growing at 4%. So for SumTrix, it will be very important to find a niche and be the best at that. So now see, just these 2 pages that we did, you have background knowledge. So when you go to the pre-scene, you'll keep in mind, okay, seasonality is something that is affecting this market. What is SumTrix doing about it? Are we looking to expand from ski manufacturing to something else? Because the whole market is also very large. All of these ideas are only possible, and we are only able to discuss them because of this industry analysis. So this industry analysis is a very important aspect which we are covering. It's not just something that we do for the sake of it. It adds a lot of value to your preparation. So now specifically about the ski manufacturing market, we look at driving forces. The market is growing at 4%. So we naturally need to look at the factors which are pushing this market forward. First is ski-related infrastructure is expanding globally. So more and more people are getting drawn towards winter sports and skiing, which is leading to more and more resorts, more and more people interested in skiing. So this is pushing the market forward. Second, the market for skis is anticipated to be driven in the coming years by an increase in activities to promote skiing. So more and more promotions of skiing, let's say the Winter Olympics or the ski championships, more and more people are watching. So they want to get involved with the sport. The market for skiing is highly dependent on the snow season, which we know, due to which it is in demand in regions like the UK, Europe, United States. And more ski resorts and programs are coming up in these sections. So this is pushing the market forward. Skiing is also looked at as a very popular and fashionable sport because of how specific it is, because of how adventurous it is. So all of these factors are pushing the market forward. When I go to the pre-scene, I want to see, okay, what are we doing? How are we taking advantage of these driving factors? Are my skis fashionable? How am I promoting them? How am I selling them? All of this becomes a good consideration because you know the driving factors. Because we are doing this industry analysis together. Otherwise, one fine day, how are you going to have these ideas if you just start with the pre-scene? Same way, any market has restraining factors or forces. Why is the growth rate at 4% and not at 8 or 10%? Because of very clear restraining factors, and the first being seasonality. This is a very seasonal business and it is highly affected by climate change.
So budgeting is a really core part of the P1 syllabus, and not surprisingly, it's one of the most commonly tested areas in the OCS exam. Now, our pre-scene tells us how budgeting works at SumTrix. So let's go through the key points carefully. First, the company prepares its budgets on an annual basis using an incremental approach. So what does that mean? Instead of starting from scratch every year, SumTrix takes the previous year's figures and adjusts them up or down depending on expected changes. It's a practical method, though it does have some limitations, which we'll talk about shortly. Secondly, we are told that standard cost cards are updated once a year. These cost cards are important because they detail the expected cost of making each product, whether it's a freestyle ski, a touring ski, or a custom model. Updating them annually keeps things reasonably accurate. But of course, remember, it still assumes that changes are incremental rather than completely rethought year after year. Third, normal raw material losses are built into the standard costs. So if some bamboo or resin is lost during the process, that's just assumed and absorbed as part of the standard cost. The key point here is that those losses aren't really challenged in the budget. Fourth, all direct labor overtime premiums are treated as variable production overhead. And then, an important one, idle time isn't included in the budget. Now, in the real world, of course, there will be idle time. Machines or workers might not be continuously active for many reasons. But in the budgeting system, nothing is allocated for that. The result, if you have some idle time, you will see it crop up later as variances, and that can distort our performance analysis. Then, production overheads are allocated to cost sectors and absorbed on a direct labor hour basis. So this is very typical of traditional absorption costing. Fixed overheads are spread over products using a predetermined rate. So our factory has several cost centers such as assembly, finishing, and so on. And each of these has its own variable and fixed overhead absorption rates. So to put these points into context, we can consider some potential exam questions. The first one, should SumTrix stick with incremental budgeting or move on to a rolling budget? So here we have mentioned advantages and disadvantages of adopting rolling budgets for a seasonal manufacturer. A seasonal manufacturer means, as SumTrix is, our production and our sales are very seasonal. So, in answering this, you would need to explain the advantages of rolling budgets, such as improved responsiveness to change, and disadvantages such as the potential for increased complexity and resource consumption in continuously updating our budget. Next, you could be asked about flexible budgets. How can we prepare a flexible budget and the benefits of doing so? Remember, a flexible budget means that the variable costs will be adjusted according to the new activity level. Then we have costs with a semi-variable element, where one element will be fixed and one element will be variable. So the variable element we will flex and the other element will remain the same. Fixed cost elements will remain the same irrespective of output levels, unless of course it's a stepped fixed cost. Flexing the budgets in this way will give us a more realistic comparison between the actual and the budgeted performance. Next, another possible question is on beyond budgeting. What are the principles of beyond budgeting and the benefits of implementing beyond budgeting? Would this suit a company like SumTrix? So beyond budgeting is all about being more adaptive, using modern technology, and moving away from rigid annual budgets. You could also see a question on zero-based budgeting. The key idea here is that every cost has to be justified from scratch rather than just carried forward from the previous year. It's particularly useful for new activities. For example, if SumTrix launches a new product or major marketing campaign, a zero-based budget would work well. But for day-to-day tasks, day-to-day items, it may be too time-consuming to be practical. Then we have feedback versus feed-forward control in budgeting and the benefits of implementing this. Feedback control is looking back, variance analysis, financial statements, things like that, and then acting based on what has already happened. Feed-forward control, on the other hand, is forward-looking, anticipating the potential problems before they will occur. Both of these points can be tested and you need to be able to explain the difference. Participative budgeting is another examinable area. So what are the benefits and drawbacks of moving to a participative style of budgeting? So this is extremely important because currently SumTrix operational managers have little involvement in the budget setting process. So participative budgeting is when the employees who will actually be responsible for meeting the targets are involved in setting these particular targets. It is a bottom-up approach. You would want to weigh up the pros and cons of this. The pros such as more realistic budgets and better motivation of the employees against the cons such as the risk of budgetary slack or longer preparation time for the budgets. Finally, responsibility accounting. So responsibility accounting is about categorizing units as cost centers, revenue centers, profit centers, or investment centers. The choice depends on the level of control and the decision-making authority. For example, if SumTrix were to open retail outlets in the future, the management would need to decide how much responsibility each store manager should have. Would they just be responsible for costs, or for revenues, or both, or even for the investment decisions related to their store? This choice will determine how the outlet is treated in terms of responsibility accounting. So as you can see, budgeting opens up a lot of possible exam questions. None of them are overly complicated, but they are very examinable. And you need to be comfortable linking the theory to SumTrix situation.
Next, we come to IAS 2 inventories. So, inventories can be raw materials like the bamboo and the different materials we take to produce our products, the maple, the carbon, the fiberglass, the rubber, whatever it is. The work in progress is semi-finished skis, and finished goods are the finished skis, whatever category they belong to, whether it's a touring ski, whether it is a freestyle ski, whether it is a unique one made based on client specifications, that all these are part of inventory. So, your examiner likes to test you on inventory. So, remember, you would record inventory at the law of cost and NRV. And what the examiner tests you on is the accounting treatment. So, how would you account for inventory? So, for an example, the common thing is you might have scenarios of different things happening to inventory, or even one thing happening to a particular category of inventory. We'll say fire and some inventory damaged, or you might say quality issues. So quality issues again would mean you can't use all your inventory properly. So then how would you account for it? You might be given different options. Now you need to evaluate them against IAS 2. What's the loss if you do this? So you have to compare the cost, you have to compare the net realizable value, you need to compare the cost of the option given in a practical sense and how you will apply it. At the same time, you will remember what is included under the cost of inventory. So it's similar to when we record property, plant and equipment. We include only the cost of purchase. Since if you're going to produce something out of it, the cost of conversion, variable production overheads, fixed production overheads. But we don't include wastage, storage cost, administration, selling costs, they do not come under the cost of inventory. Only the relevant applicable cost. So the disclosures you would make will be relevant to the accounting policy you used. So accounting policy when it comes to costing inventory will be whether we use first in, first out or the average cost method. What's the carrying amount of inventory in the different categories? Raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. And amount of inventories we had to carry it at net realizable value because of some loss. What is the loss? And what was the expense we incurred due to inventories during the given period of time. That's just a summary of the key things you need to know about inventory. So if you basically identify, you go through the inventory section, you identify how do you initially recognize it, what is considered as a part of the cost, what is considered as a not part of the cost. You look at the accounting policies you can adapt for recognition of inventories. You look at the disclosures, you will be able to understand it well. Next, ethics. Now, ethics is an area, it's part of, you're at the operational level. But even if you move to the management, the strategic level, ethics should always be a part of how you prepare for the exam and how you would present answers. So examiners might indirectly test you on ethics, or they might give you an entire question on ethics. So if it's even indirectly, you need to always consider the ethical implications of an action. If applicable, this does not mean that you just bring out ethics for everything, but rather where it's applicable, you can. But most applicable is when you get a specific question on ethics. So sometimes there might be a course of action. For an example, we have suppliers from China. We have suppliers maybe from other countries, developing countries. They might use child labor. So ethical aspects of things like that. So we will look at 5, always refer to the CIMA Code of Ethics. Look at the 5 fundamental principles. So there is, if I remember it right, there is integrity, objectivity, professional behavior, professional competence and due care, and then there is confidentiality. So mention these principles, but only dive deep into the potential principles that may or may not be violated. Dive deep, dive into the unseen scenario and discuss if there is a violation or not. This is basically how you would explain when you get a question on ethics. And of course, make sure to give a course of action. So if there is an ethical violation, you don't want to ignore it. You need to take action. If you are not able to take any action because you're blocked, you withdraw yourself from the situation and again notify the relevant authorities if it escalates to that extent. If you look at the information, we are claiming we're trying to be a company responsible in this regard. We're trying to be conscious to fulfill our ethical duty, to comply with the laws, to be sustainable, all of that. So we're looking at a lot of things. That means we're trying to be sensitive to the needs and wants of our wider stakeholders and not just our shareholders. So if you look at the quotes from our Preseen we just went through, this is very evident. And that's why we are doing a lot of things such as using renewable materials such as bamboo, we're trying to use recycled plastic and following sustainable production processes. So your examiner can ask you indirectly, or you might evaluate indirectly, what are the benefits of us being a good corporate social, fulfilling that responsibility? What is the benefit and what's the cost as well? The cost might be material cost, for an example, might be higher, but of course, brand reputation, environmental impact, would be the positive aspects of being responsible from a corporate social perspective. Next, we move on to centralization and decentralization. Now again, your Preseen does mention certain indications. For an example, budgets prepared annually on an incremental basis. Operational managers have limited involvement. So that means it's more of a centralized structure when it comes to this. It seems like it's held within the top level. Then SumTrix manufactures all of its skis at the company's own production facility. Again, it's a part of being more centralized. We are not trying to decentralize to local areas where we produce. It's produced in one place. And the retail sales team has the authority to offer discounts to retail partners. Now, this is an indication of decentralization. So we are giving local sales teams a little bit of authority to set their own discounts. So that would mean we are going towards a little bit of decentralization. So with that in mind, with those little inferences given in your Preseen, now assuming we are thinking of expanding, for an example, to North America. So there might be a question, should we be centralized or should we decentralize our operations? Should we have a North American division so that they can maintain local authority? Or should we keep all the authority within Relan headquarters? That's just one example. Another example could be whether our budgeting should become more decentralized, because right now it's centralized with limited involvement with operational managers. So could we make it more decentralized? Could we give more responsibility to these operational managers? Next, outsourcing is a possible issue. So already we have a little bit of outsourcing. So the Preseen shows us that as a company, SumTrix does like some of these areas. We have our ski accessories which are bought unbranded from our trusted suppliers. So this is outsourcing. But of course, our skis are produced in-house. Then some of the supplies or raw materials like the binding plates are also outsourced. We don't produce it in-house. So there is a bit of outsourcing, but design, research and development, final assembly, finishing, ski manufacturing happen in-house. So the core product at the moment is kept in-house, and that's important. When it comes to outsourcing, we don't want to outsource the core product. And we want to remember when we talk about outsourcing to take into consideration quality. So in the exam, if you're given a question on outsourcing, you want to take into consideration quality, of course, cost of outsourcing, whether it's a core or non-core activity. Outsourcing skis might be will be a core activity. So that might not be advisable. What are the other strategic implications of outsourcing? Other aspects that might affect us either in the short term, medium or long term. What are the risks? Other risks. So these all need to be considered when you consider the advantages and the disadvantages of outsourcing. On the day of the exam, you might have areas which we might outsource. For an example, we do custom ski production. Maybe some of these custom skis take a lot of time. So could we outsource that? Now, if that was to happen, or some of our generic skis, do we want to outsource? Now, that would mean we need to take into account all these factors. And sometimes P1 areas will also come into play, like a cost comparison. Should we make or should we buy? So this is where P1 areas will link with the E1 areas.
Now, if you want a structured, well-organized way to prepare, you don't have to do it alone. Our study packages give you everything you need. Let's take a quick look what's included. Our essential package is the best starting point if you want to cover the basics. You'll get a full Preseen analysis to cover the exam scenario with theory revisions to refresh your key technical knowledge. You also get 15 writing tasks and 3 mocks to get your practice started. If you want more practice and expert insight, advanced package is just for you. You'll get everything in the essential package, what I just mentioned, and on top of that you have extra 2 mocks to practice, so 5 mocks in total. And on top of that you have 1 mock marking service, so you can get tutor feedback on structure and approach. And starting from advanced packages, we add a top Preseen issue video analysis, so that's helping you to focus on what's likely to come in your exam. Now in a master package, it's our most popular package for students who want to have a well-rounded study plan with past CIMA exam insights. So here, you will get everything that I've mentioned before. On top of that, you have an extra mock, so you will have 6 in total. We provide 3 marking services and a repository of past CIMA exam questions split by topic, which is an absolute treasure because CIMA often repeats key topics, just changing the case study company. With this, you'll see exactly how examiners expect you to answer questions based on previous sittings. And I've seen that already with tuition providers, and they resell that basically repository just for the price of our whole package. So I think that's a steal. An ultimate package is the most comprehensive package with maximum practice and personal guidance. Here you get everything that I just mentioned before. On top of that, you have an extra mock, so you have 7 mocks to practice in total. You get 5 mock marking services. And on top of that, you have 3 personal one-on-one lessons with our tutor. So it's ideal if you want focused coaching on your exam technique. If you would like to see how our platform works, we offer a free package where you can try out some of our study materials. Just head out to practicetestacademy.com/OCS and sign up. The OCS exam is all about preparation. With the right plan, mock practice and expert guidance, you'll be ready to walk into the exam feeling confident. So, choose the package that suits you best, get started today, and pass your OCS exam on the first attempt. Thank you for listening and good luck!